This evening I found myself saying something I haven't said in like 5 years, something that I thought I'd never say again. But it's time to go to the meeting. Wish me luck, here we go. Technology failed me so badly. I went back to the meeting last night, and the sleep mode on my phone activated about 15 seconds into walking into the Kingdom Hall, and it knocked off my video recording. So I didn't get any of the first half of me going into the Kingdom Hall and mingling with the brothers. None of that. I didn't get any of it on camera, which is a shame because I got a really, really tasty bit of gossip. I'm just going to try to recollect for you what was said to me. First of all, when I walked up to the Kingdom Hall, I've noticed that they seem to be very, very paranoid about apostates now. At least that's what it kind of felt like to me. Maybe I was just self-conscious because I knew that, well, I suspected some of the brothers in there might recognize me because they've come to my door and I have spanked them with the scriptures and with logic and reasoning and sent them fleeing away from my door in the past. So I was really, like, in the back of my mind, kind of concerned that a few of them might recognize me and just blow my cover and send me packing. But fortunately, there is two congregations, but it felt like they have a new, tighter security apostate defense these days. There's always a brother at the door, I've noticed, before the meeting, who greets you and opens the door for you or whatever. When I was a kid, I used to do that for the brothers and sisters. It was kind of like my unofficial job. It was something they gave to little children just to do, just to be pleasant and make people smile. But now it seems like there's an actual position for the brothers that they stand there to kind of see who's coming in, and in case somebody comes in who's questionable, they can stop them right there at the door. That's what I suspect anyway. And then you've got the lobby area, and they keep the double doors. There's a brother there too, or at least in my situation, this is what happened. I walked in, and I tried to slip in without talking to anybody, and I tried to kind of just go find a seat immediately. But there was there's brothers standing at the double doors of the lobby as well, and they stopped me. They're like, "Oh, hello," came up and shook my hand and kind of looked me over. It seems like they've got a checkpoint system. When I was going to the Kingdom Hall as a kid, people could slip in and sit down quietly without even really anyone approaching them. Of course, I think part of it was this hall that I went to was very small compared to the one I grew up going to. It was very tiny and kind of constricted. When you walk in, you feel like everyone there immediately turns to look at you because it is so small and different from what I'm used to. Or maybe I'm just bigger, I don't know. No, it hasn't been that long since I've been to a Kingdom Hall. So the brother who greeted me at the double doors of the lobby, or the double doors to enter the actual auditorium, I guess you would call it, where the seats are and everything, the brother who stopped me to talk to me asked me, what my name was. And I said, my name is Evan Crew, which is kind of the alias that I'm going with for my ex-Jehovah's Witness endeavors. And he said, "What was your last name?" And I said, "Crew." He said, oh, okay. I don't think he really bought it, and he was a little suspicious. He thought that was a little strange. It is a weird name, but I didn't really care. Like, I knew they were going to be fishing for details about me, and I really didn't care what they believed. So we got to talking, me and this brother. He was a really nice guy, And I mentioned that the Kingdom Hall seemed smaller from the one I was used to, and he asked me, "Oh, so where are you from?" He asked me another question. "Where are you from?" See, they seem to fish for details quite a lot with newcomers who look different. You've got, clear signs of being worldly. He says, "Where are you from?" I said, "Oh, Florida. I'm from Florida, North Florida." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, well, down south, they have a lot more people. They're bigger Kingdom Halls." But the interesting thing about this interaction with this brother is then he goes on to tell me that, and this is breaking news to me, I didn't know anything about this. He says that the Jehovah's Witnesses are planning to remodel their Kingdom Halls, all of them, again. This time, and I'm going to quote him exactly what he said to me. He said, "The new Kingdom Halls are going to look like Dunkin' Donuts." Those are the exact words that he used. He used words like, it's going to be open, big glass windows in the front. He says it's going to have a business model feel to it, and he was excited about this. All I heard was Dunkin' Donuts. When he said Dunkin' Donuts, I said no. Like, my interested newcomer persona just went right out the window when he said that. I said no. Which I felt like he kind of floundered a little bit, like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that," but I couldn't help but kind of be shocked at whatever the society has shown them internally at the Kingdom Halls about what they're going to do for remodeling. It sounds like a disaster. It sounds like everything that I hate about the new changes that they're making. Business model, Dunkin' Donuts, big lit up sign and glass windows at the front. It's just it's basically become a chain of religion, a chain of Kingdom Halls across America. Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah, so I can't wait for that one, and I hope I can find a confirmation of what he said somewhere on the internet. I'll keep you updated on that. But all right, well, so anyways, so then the meeting started, and I took my seat at the very back of the Kingdom Hall. And just to further impress upon you how concerned they are with apostates and security now, I sat down, and the same brother who had stopped me before I entered the auditorium came and sat right next to me. Like, there was like 4 empty seats to my right, and this brother came and sat right next to me. And the excuse was, "Well, I don't have an extra copy of the study material you can share with me." Which is nice, but it's also kind of creepy. But I was like, whatever, okay, thank you, But then, like, no sooner that he said that, somebody came up and gave me a study copy of the book that they were studying. So at that point, him sitting next to me was no longer necessary, but he sat there still for the remainder of the time I was there. So I don't think they're playing any more apostate foolishness. I know, I get the feeling that because of a lot of the stunts that the apostate XJWs have done in the past, that they keep a very close eye on suspicious people. So I failed to get all of that on camera, and I apologize. But I did manage to get some, because after the book study portion of it, I went to the bathroom and checked my camera, and then I discovered that none of it had recorded because it went to sleep mode, and I was like, "Oh man, are you serious?" So I turned the sleep mode off, and I was able to capture a portion of the actual meeting, which I'll share with you. The only real point of interest to me was that of all the meetings I could go to, this one that I went to, one of the parts just had to be about apostates. And coincidence? How often are they talking about apostates? I feel like the XJW community is really putting the fear into the organization, because it seems like every time I hear something from them, it's on apostasy and how we should not listen to the big bad apostates. I'm going to go ahead and play the footage for you.
Tree irrelevant. Of course not. Really, just because there's certain parts of the Bible that we might find more tasty or more interesting. They're not about the drier parts of stuff. Increase our taste for these areas.
First Chronicles 7, 1, 2, tragedy, his son, Uzziah, his son, Zerahiah, his son, Merioth.
Our next student talk is going to be given by Sister Davis. She has as her assistant Sister Gibbons. Her material is taken from the glossary, page 1693, and her setting that she has chosen, the theme is What is Apostasy? And the setting is Conducting a Study with an Advanced Student.
A particular thing from the glossary. And so the one I chose was on apostasy. So it's located on page 1693, if you want to open up your Bible, and we can read the definition of what it is. Yes, if you would.
This term in Greek, apostasia, comes from a verb literally meaning to stand away from. The noun has the sense of desertion, abandonment, or rebellion. In the Christian Greek scriptures, apostasy is used primarily with regard to those who defect from true worship.
Do you notice here how it brings out that the Christian Greek scriptures uses it primarily for someone who's defected from pure worship? So actually, if they defected from pure worship, they'd have to know what the truth was to begin with to defect from it, wouldn't they?
Yes, they would.
So do you remember last summer when we went to the convention? Now, if you're thinking about these descriptions of apostasy, we saw as we entered near the assembly, there was people with signs and pickets and shouting and hollering. And these apostates, can you see how this apostasy would apply to them through the scripture that we just read, the meaning of apostasy?
Sure, because the things they were saying were things like believe in Jesus and you'll be saved, and that's not what the Bible and show me in the Bible that that's not true.
That's right. So because they have known the truth and they've stood away from it as it brought out, or defected from the truth, that they've apostatized. So all their teaching, you notice that when we were going into the convention, did you notice anyone listening to what they were saying?
Not Jehovah's people, no.
No,
they
weren't.
Like looking straight ahead, and the brothers were
Right.
lining up and guarding us.
And the reason why they wouldn't be listening to that is brought out in Proverbs chapter 11, and see if you can find out why at verse 9. You'll read that.
By his mouth the apostate brings his neighbor to ruin, but by knowledge the righteous are rescued.
So why do you think that we wouldn't listen to the apostates as we went into the convention?
Well, these untruths would mean could mean our lives. Because, we have the hope of everlasting life.
Right. So by not listening, we're not taking in that falsehood, which we wouldn't want to take in. And by listening only to what Jehovah teaches us, we're going to be not a part of that apostasy. And especially for ones that are new and young, it's important to teach that to them, to the new ones that are coming into truth about not, so that they can be aware of what this is and how it's treacherous. Even the Apostle Paul gave us counsel in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3. We'll read the first part of it. And he gave counsel about how we had to be careful in the Christian congregation about who we listened to, because there was apostasy starting back then as well. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3 reads, "Let no one lead you astray in any way." So he was warning the congregation to be careful because they were a restraint for this apostasy. But of course, when the apostles died, that accelerated. That's why you see so much apostasy in the world today with false religions and stuff. So it's important that as we're teaching others, that we actually use God's word to answer questions in the field ministry, or even if you have a question or you want to research something you don't quite understand, it's always important to use God's word to do the research because we know that's the truth.
Well, I certainly see the value in that. I really appreciate you looking at that.
Well, we'll go into this a little bit further next week.
So I loved how in this sister's presentation, she brought up at their last district convention, she asked a householder what she had noticed, and they talked about apostates outside with pickets and signs shouting things. And you know, it's funny that the things that she heard them say was only things like, believe in Jesus and you'll be saved. Like, of course that's the only thing they could say on the platform, because if they actually repeated some of the things that ex-Jehovah's Witnesses are saying about the organization at these events, well, it would probably stumble a lot of the witnesses there, because a lot of these things are powerful. When XJWs are outside the convention talking about this generation doctrine, millions now living will never die, things like that gets your attention. Of course, there's no mention of that in the sister's part. Did you also notice that they said at the convention that the brothers were lined up to protect the Jehovah's Witnesses from the apostates? Like, when she said that, I have this mental image of this line of brothers with their, like, arms locked and just creating a human wall against these evil apostates. And it's just so laughable. These people are so sheltered. They have no idea that these people that are outside the convention are real human beings who are concerned about them. It just never enters their mind. From the eyes of Jehovah's Witnesses, these people out there are Satan-controlled zombies, and nothing that comes out of their mouth has any relevance. It's just so sad. So, long story short, the biggest reason I went to the Kingdom Hall last night, I mean, I had a lot of curiosities. One of the things I wanted to know was if people were paying attention to jw.org and JW Broadcast and all the different things that they were posting online, the videos and whatnot. And one of the comments, one of the sisters used the example of something that she saw on JW Broadcast, one of the videos that they produced. So yeah, they are very much just eating up every video that they put on that page. And also, I counted about 5 of them were following along to the meeting on their tablets. So that's also something that's very real that's going on in the congregation now. But the biggest reason I went is because I desperately wanted to get my hands on this book. I mean, yeah, I could have ordered it on Amazon and paid money, but I'm really cheap, and I wanted to get it for free. I mean, it just feels wrong to have to pay for society literature. You know, it's funny, the way I got it, the same brother who kind of stopped me and sat with me during the entire thing, I left after the halfway point when the second song, I got up and I shook his hand and I let him know I was leaving. He says, "Oh, I'll go with you." And this dude, no joke, escorted me all the way outside the building. Like, they are legit serious, suspicious of any newcomers who don't look the part. But I asked him, I said, you know, is there any way I could get a copy of the Reasoning from the Scriptures book, because when I first introduced myself to him, I told him, I said, my name is Evan Crew. I'm what I like to call an at-home earnest Bible student. I said, have you ever heard of one of those? And he said, well, I have now. So I kind of painted the picture that, well, I told him that my parents took me to meetings when I was very small, when I was a kid, and that what I did is I studied the Bible on my own, and I did my own Bible reading kind of from at home. So that was kind of the premise that I was going with. So when he escorted me out, I asked him if I could get my hands on the Reasoning from the Scriptures book. I said that I remember that there were a lot of really good biblical points in that book, and I just was dying to get a copy of it. I said, if you can break a 20, I'll donate, And he says, nah, don't worry about it. And he actually went in and got it for me, so that was awesome. Score. And the reason I really wanted my own copy of the Reasoning book again, because I lost all of my JW literature. I got divorced quite a while ago. I guess it's been 5 years. I think it was 5 years ago. And it was kind of a sudden divorce, and I lost all my JW literature. And that's really been bothering me, especially since I've started doing videos, is that I don't have any of the original literature. But I really wanted this one, Reasoning from the Scriptures book, because of all the gems that you can use against them in this book. It was made in 1989 is when it was first made, and there's a lot of old light in this book still, and it's still in circulation. They still print these and stock them at the Kingdom Hall. They're still in use. But the point that I wanted to share with you guys, one of the things that helped me come out of the Watchtower Society and leave the Jehovah's Witnesses for good was the point about false prophets. So if you go into the contents page in the front, yeah, it's like if you look in the very first page, it under false prophets, it'll give you a page number 132, page 132. When I read this, because I went through a phase when I was pioneering where I realized that I was baptized at a very young age. I was baptized at like 11 years old, I think it was. And at that time, I had a very small amount of biblical knowledge. And to be completely honest, I could not effectively defend my beliefs or the doctrines that Jehovah's Witnesses believed at that time. And as I got older and I started pioneering, I realized that I wanted to be a more effective minister. So what I started doing is I started just tearing this book apart and writing down my own notes so that I could remember and very effectively reply to all kinds of criticism against the Jehovah's Witnesses, right? That ended up being my downfall because of some of the things I read in this book. And in the false prophets section, under the section, the subheading says, "Have not Jehovah's Witnesses made errors in their teachings?" This blew me away, what it says on this page. It's page 136 of the Reasoning book. It says, "Jehovah's Witnesses do not claim to be inspired prophets. They have made mistakes. Like the apostles of Jesus Christ, they have at times had some wrong expectations." The key point of this paragraph for me being when they state Jehovah's Witnesses do not claim to be inspired prophets. When you are raised a Jehovah's Witness, it's ingrained upon you that the Jehovah's Witnesses are the mouthpiece, the governing body, the faithful and discreet slave. These men are God's channel. The things that they write go hand in hand with the Bible and is approved by God. Like, this is the mentality you have being raised as a witness. This is what you assume. And it is hinted at, especially in some of the older publications. Some of the older Watchtowers made statements comparing themselves to the prophets of old. I mean, this is what they give you. This is the impression that they give you. And then when you read a statement like this from their own mouths, Jehovah's Witnesses do not claim to be inspired prophets. They have made mistakes. So if they're not inspired prophets, then how come they made you feel guilty for questioning them even a little bit? Remember all those parts about Korah and how he was swallowed up by the earth because he questioned Moses and he murmured? And they said, well, the same thing, we want to be careful of being like Korah and the congregation if we're murmuring and questioning the brothers. Wrong. Because according to this, Jehovah's Witnesses do not claim to be inspired prophets. Moses was an inspired prophet of God. Questioning him meant death by Jehovah. According to this statement from their own mouths, this does not apply to the Jehovah's Witnesses. They are nothing more than men who make mistakes. Like the apostles of Jesus Christ. Judas was an apostle. I realized later why they wrote this. This is a disclaimer. This is a get-out-of-jail-free card for them. Because all the times that they have made mistakes, all the court battles that they fought against elders doing terrible things and child molesting cases and et cetera, this is how they get out of being at fault. This is how they get out of being lumped in with the false prophet category and being guilty of the terrible things Jehovah says he's going to do to them in the Bible. They're not lumped in with the false prophets because in this paragraph, this one sentence is their get-out-of-jail-free card. Jehovah's Witnesses do not claim to be inspired prophets. Therefore, we're not false prophets. Video one time, a governing body member was defending a court battle of something that had happened. I remember seeing it a long time ago, right before I came out. And the language he used, he said, Jehovah's Witnesses do not claim to be anything more than earnest Bible students. They're not prophets, they are just earnest Bible students. And when I heard that, combined with what this paragraph said, it became very clear to me that these are just people. They are just men. Jehovah does not speak through them. Therefore, they need to be questioned. They need to be scrutinized. And that's what I did. I started thinking critically and doing research and digging up every bit of information that I could on past articles and publications. And what I found is that it becomes abundantly clear that if Jehovah God exists, he does not favor the Jehovah's Witnesses over any other religion. There is no evidence to suggest that the Jehovah's Witnesses have some higher understanding or blessing than any other religious group. And I think that is worth repeating and is worth sharing. And I hope you thought so too. If you read a little further on this same page, it says, Jesus also described a many-featured sign that would tie in with the fulfillment of time prophecies to identify the generation that would live to see the end of Satan's wicked system of things. So even as current as this book that they still use, you can find evidence of where they think that there is a singular generation from 1914 that will live to see the end of Satan's wicked system of things. In fact, an even more obvious nod to this is on page 200. On page 200, subheading 8, where it says last days. It says they believe, talking about Jehovah's Witnesses, they believe that we are living now, since 1914, in the last days of this wicked system of things, that some who saw the events of 1914 will also see the complete destruction of the present wicked world. That lovers of righteousness will survive into a cleansed earth. So they still have a book containing old light in their library that you can pick up from your own Kingdom Hall and read how right there it says not so long ago they believed that people who were alive in 1914 would also see the complete destruction of the present wicked world. They're wrong. Wrong again. And yet you're not allowed to question them?